Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the December 17th, 2024 Economic Development Authority meeting. This concludes our year. I think as I reflect back on it, I think we've had a really good year in terms of the businesses that we have been able to fund, the Shop the Block, the finance capital program that we're trying to stand up. But more importantly, I'm just thankful to have great commissioners who are committed to moving in a direction that really does great work for the city. So I just want to thank all of you for that. And I want to do something special for Barbara. Today is Barbara's last meeting on the authority. She has been just a terrific commissioner.
Thank you.
Provided
Thank you so much.
wonderful insight, particularly as it relates to real estate, and will be sorely missed. And we wanted to give you something.
Oh, no.
Some flowers for your help.
You.
We also have a cake that's coming, so it's back here in the back.
Let me get chipped up.
We'll start with the roll call.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good morning to everyone. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Mr. Mitchell. Here. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Mr. James.
Here.
Are we
And
going to
Mr. Harmon.
Here. Yes, well, however you want to do it, you're good.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay. As always, I trust that everyone had an opportunity to look at the November 19th minutes. There are no changes. I move for the adoption.
Second. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, read the roll. Mr. Barber.
All right.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
And Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Here, the item is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
We'll now move into old business.
Chair, the first item for discussion this morning, it's really just a reminder and an update. And that item is the upcoming Baines Point groundbreaking ceremony. The Woda Cooper companies will be having an official groundbreaking ceremony on January 28th at 11 a.m. That will be held on the property, of course. There is an invitation pending with additional details that we will circulate as soon as that comes out. But wanted to make sure you're aware of this. So you can put a placeholder on your calendars. Of course, if you're to drive by today, construction's already started and is underway. They've made some good progress there while the weather has cooperated. But we will be out there on the 11th. My understanding is lunch will be provided on that date as well. So more details to come, but please pencil this in on your calendar as it's
Certainly becoming a busy corridor.
certainly is, and more to come. The next item is an update on the FY25 Business Investment Grant Program. Just wanted to share some additional numbers with you for the startup program, our business development grant. We have received 20 applications to date this fiscal year and have approved funding in the amount of $26,000 year to date. We had an active second quarter. You'll see there 12 applications came in at the end of October. We've been working to finalize the process of those and get those closed out. So some good continuing activity. This has been the most in-demand program. As you can imagine, for startups, this funding is essential for them to really get off the ground and cover some of those funds that are really needed to launch their business. The next program is your acceleration grant. We've seen a limited amount of interest year to date for this program. We have had 3 applications that have been received through the second round. We've actually only approved funding for 1 of those applications. The other 2 were incomplete, so we've actually only approved and awarded $5,000 to date for the acceleration grant program. And then, of course, your real estate investment grant program, which we have fully allocated the funding and even allocated additional funds to the tune of $351,000 this fiscal year. This continues to be a high demand program. We do have some individuals who have expressed an interest in obtaining funds this fiscal year. However, the program has been closed due to having exceeded our funding allocation. So what we are recommending to the board this morning is a reallocation and appropriation of some funding so that we can accommodate those other interested property owners and businesses that are looking to make some real estate improvements at the location. We are asking for the EDA's approval of reappropriating $50,000 from the acceleration grant to the real estate grant program, which would bring the total funding to $401,000 for the fiscal year. We have a pretty significant pipeline of businesses and property owners that are interested in moving forward. This would also allow for the acceleration grant program to maintain what we think is substantial funding to carry it through the end of the fiscal year. Happy to answer any questions you might have or address any comments.
Motion.
Yeah.
I move that we will move $50,000 from the acceleration grant to the real property investment grant.
Second.
Thank you, Treasurer Sonnet Smith and Vice Chair Barber. Just taking some notes here on the motion. Is there any discussion on the item?
When we go into next year's funding, will we make some decisions based on usage? So acceleration, will we reduce that somewhat significantly?
Chairman, that would be the staff's recommendation that we look to make some adjustments in where those funds are allocated just based on the demand. I think the acceleration grant staff's recommendation would be to reduce that significantly and then increase where needed the other programs as you desire.
Just out of curiosity, is there anything out there that would be suitable replacement? I think the businesses might need. Maybe we should just have some discussion next year just to see if there's another program that may be.
Certainly open to that. And for the other staff in that conversation to hear what they've been hearing from the business community as well. I think what you have in place currently has been really well received. The resources you've been providing, I think, have gone a long way in helping both the business community, but commercial property owners as well. But certainly any other new programs or resources you're willing to provide, I think are always appreciated.
Are we just getting less participation in the acceleration grant, less applicants?
Yes, I think there seems to be in some areas maybe less need. I believe the fact that it's also a reimbursement-based program for some provides some challenges because they do have to, make the expenditures first and then come in for reimbursement. Obviously, the small business loan program would be another avenue that some of those existing businesses could pursue, where they would not necessarily have to come out of pocket. Investments. But I think these are all items to discuss as we look forward to the coming fiscal year and your budget and how you'd like to implement these programs. Any other discussion on the item? Hearing none, Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
and Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Before we get away from it, when is the closing date on the RFPs on the,
December 20th, which is
20th.
Friday.
okay, that's what I was thinking.
By a vote of 7-0, the item is approved. Thank you. Moving on to some new business. 1028 High Street. We do have a demolition plan proposal that has been received. We actually obtained multiple proposals for the work. And Kimley Horn, which is a vendor that the city has under an annual services agreement, was one of the two respondents. And they have provided the low bid on this. Essentially, we are needing a demolition plan, site grading and erosion and sediment control for demolishing those properties for future development. It's a $10,000 expense, which came in lower than we were anticipating. And staff is ready to move forward. Kimley Horn is on standby. But in order to do so, we would need the board's authorization to commit those funds so that we can enter into a contract for the work.
Oh, so moved. Second. Plan and submission of demolition for the demolition permit.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Chop, who's been working with Kimley Horn, to respond to your question.
So, once we're able to execute, give Kimley Horn to go ahead, I believe it'll be about 30 to 60 days before they have the demolition plan ready to submit to the city.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Once received, we're going to push to get it reviewed and approved as quickly as we can, so then we can go ahead and put out a bid package and have the properties demolished. I think it's important with the investment that's happening and occurring adjacent to the property, that we're doing our part to contribute and removing the blight from. So we'll move as quickly as we can at this point.
Brian, we were going to work with the marketing department for some signage around the property once it's the demolitions.
We are, yes, Chair, we are working with the city's marketing department as well as the city's advertising agency, which is Davis. And we are working on a branding process for the Innovation District to establish a brand and identity. And then once that has been done, we'll look at opportunities for signage, both gateway signage, but also announcing some projects and activities that are happening in the district. So that will be a process, and we actually plan to engage with the EDA as we work to do that, because we want your input and opinion on what you feel the identity is. We'll have some suggestions, but certainly want you to be a part of that process. The Innovation District is not the name of this new district. The Innovation District is an idea, but this is a community essentially that we're establishing. So we want to make sure that it is branded, it has its own identity, and it's something that we can market. There is a motion in the second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
And Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
Chair, the item is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Okay. The next items are really just some updates and information that we wanted to share to make you aware of some things that are happening as it relates to economic development in the city, some things that I think that will be impactful and assist with our efforts to move Portsmouth forward from an industrial standpoint. The first is the Eastern Virginia Regional Industrial Finance Authority. I have a few slides here that will give you some background on what this authority is. Essentially, it is a cooperative agreement between localities. This RIFA, if you will, it's a mechanism that the state of Virginia has created that allows for localities in the same region to partner in the development of development sites and facilities, and then share in the revenue that those projects generate. There are several of these throughout the state. It looks like there's 11, in fact, but they're predominantly in the western portion of Virginia. As it relates to this authority, the EV RIFA, the Commonwealth of Virginia authorized the creation in December of 2018. Initially, the RIFA existed on the peninsula and has since expanded from that to include majority of the Southside cities now as well. The Hampton Roads Alliance is the managing entity for the EV RIFA. They took over in 2022, so they handle all of the administrative matters as well as serving as a fiscal agent and support staff for the RIFA. These are the members here. You can see that essentially the founding members are peninsula based, but since its inception, it's also included a number of the Southside communities as well. In terms of the operation and how the EV RIFA works, the benefit to the localities, members of the EV RIFA can agree to a revenue sharing and economic growth sharing agreement with respect to how tax revenues from projects that are invested in by the members are generated and distributed to the participants in the authority. These projects, they all require that the member localities choose and agree to participate. They do have the ability to not participate in projects, but it does require approval of the governing body of the locality. In addition to that, any agreements would need to be approved by a majority of the governing body as well for future projects. In terms of direct participation, again, locality members can consider participation in individual projects or facilities. The cost for those projects would be shared by the members of the authority that are participating. Again, it is not required that if you're a member, you have to participate. You get to choose to do so on a case-by-case basis. To date, there has only been one active project in the EV RIFA, and that is the Kings Creek Commerce Center in York County. So relatively new authority, and as a result has not been utilized much yet, but I think that is going to change. The reason we're bringing this for you is this, the Portsmouth City Council voted to adopt an ordinance to join the EV RIFA on December 10th. So Portsmouth is now moving forward with becoming a member. The item is going to the EV RIFA board this week for acceptance of Portsmouth as the newest member. So that will leave, I believe, just Norfolk and the city of Suffolk as the only Southside localities that have not joined. I believe Norfolk has been briefed. I think there's some council really entertaining the opportunity. At this time, Portsmouth will be looking to appoint 2 primary and 2 alternate EV RIFA board members. Typically, it is the CEO of the community that serves on the RIFA board. There will likely be one other member appointed to the board. And what this will allow for is now Portsmouth to participate in regional economic development projects, which is important for a city. Like Portsmouth, where we have limited land availability and limited opportunities in the future for large-scale projects that will generate large revenues, Portsmouth can now choose to participate in other communities' projects financially and then benefit from the revenue those projects generate. We can also look to have our neighboring communities partner in our projects. It is not limited to industrial projects, in spite of the name. Commercial developments are eligible as well. So think about our waterfront, our innovation district, our entertainment district. If there are properties that require substantial infrastructure investments, this would be a good vehicle for bringing our partnering communities and Hampton Roads to the table to help us with that. So another tool in the toolbox and resource that we can deploy to further our economic development efforts. I would like to have the Hampton Roads Alliance come before you in a future meeting to give you an update on some of the work they're doing to include the EV RIFA, but I just wanted to make you aware of this because it is something that has just happened, and I think it's kind of an important item to make sure you're aware of. So happy to answer any questions as best I can. Again, we'll get the experts in the room here in the next few months to give you a full briefing and understand.
I have a question. You said the only current project is the Kings Creek Commerce Center. Do you have any more information on any details about that project? Who they're partnering with? What the benefits have been thus far?
I can certainly circulate that. I didn't want to go into too much detail on it, but we do have some information on that project, and I can circulate that information from the Hampton.
Thank you.
Moving forward to the next item, really excited about actually the next two items. We have two rail transloading facilities that are coming to Portsmouth. The first is on a property that is owned by the Norfolk Portsmouth Beltline Railroad. That's a short line railroad that operates in the cities of Portsmouth and Chesapeake. They have a large, approximately 20-acre site along the Martin Luther King Freeway on Virginia Avenue. It's been a dormant rail yard for a number of years, and they will be working to transform that property into a transloading facility to move commodities from rail car to containers for export through the Port of Virginia. Very important to the port's growth as they are looking to increase their exports, but I think also important to Portsmouth as we're working to, again, ensure that these properties are being fully utilized at their highest and best use. It is a two-phase project. The first phase will include a laydown area for storage of containers. That's about a $6.5 million investment. The second phase will include some added transloading equipment. That's about a $50 million investment. So $56 million total investment. We were very successful in getting a Virginia Port Host Communities Grant Award to support the project. We received $800,000 that was announced by the governor's office earlier this month in support. And we are now just awaiting an agreement from the state for this project to move forward. Employment generation will be somewhere around 30 to 40 employees at the facility once it is complete. And the Beltline Railroad has partnered with Raymont Logistics. They're a global logistics operator out of Canada. So this will be a Canadian firm coming to operate the facility. You'll see here the layout. The area that is outlined in yellow is where the transload yard will be initially. There is some track that needs to be relocated, which will allow for additional development in phase two. So just wanted to make you aware of this project. I think again, this is new for Portsmouth. It quite honestly is new for Hampton Roads, but is really key to the port's growth and expansion. So we're excited about this, and we'll be keeping you informed as this project continues to move forward. Not a mile down the road, we have another facility of a similar nature, which is a CSX rail yard facility that will be hosting a project by the DeLong Company out of Wisconsin. They will be coming to develop a similar project that will include additional components for storage, which again, we're talking about commodities, primarily agricultural commodities. So grain, corn, soybean will be offloaded from the rail cars into via conveyors into silos and then ultimately into containers for export. It's about a $26 million project. The DeLong Company was present at the City Council's December 10th meeting to provide a briefing on their project. They are pursuing a grant as well through the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation Rail Industrial Access Program. They will be requesting a $750,000 grant to support some track relocation. You can see some job creation numbers there. At maximum, 14 full-time positions will be created under the DeLong Company for the project, and then additional supportive positions for grain inspectors and then truck drivers who will be transporting the product to the port. The other positive aspect of these two projects is that they will be limiting the number of trucks that will be coming to and from the port by bringing in the product via rail. So keeping trucks off the roads, and then obviously being in close proximity to the port, the transportation time and impacts locally will be minimized.
I have a question. Will both of these rail systems be working with you all in looking at the parameters for employees and getting them ready for those types of jobs? I don't know what the background is needed for that.
Absolutely. So we will be working through Portsmouth at work for both the DeLong Company and Raymond. Are any specific skill sets, certifications, or trainings required for somebody to gain employment with either company? Whatever those needs would be, we would be looking to work with them to develop some criteria and then helping with the selection and sourcing of candidates. Absolutely. Which we would be doing in most cases with a project of this size. Well, Chair, that does cover the new business. I do believe we're in need of a closed meeting. Okay.
Chair, can I share some information?
Sure.
Good morning.
Good
morning. I had the opportunity to attend the Governor's Housing Conference last month. And I'm very excited about some key initiatives that he has launched, primarily workforce housing initiatives. I think all of us at the table realize that development and affordable workforce housing go together. I think now some key players are now understanding that relationship. So there will be some funding opportunities for localities to apply for funding. And so I'm going to attend a webinar actually today on that, and I'll provide some information back to you all. But I think it's an opportunity for additional funding to come into our localities with the expectation that jobs will be created as well. And not only that, it will allow us to go up to 120% of AMI. Normally with our programs through HUD, we're 80% and below. So this will allow us to reach higher income between 80 and 120% of AMI. And so for a family of four, that would be, $80,000 to $120,000 for this area. So we really have the opportunity to truly create mixed income communities. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about that, and I will share that with you all as well.
Thank
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I move to go to closed meeting pursuant to code section 2.2-3711A dot three for the purposes of discussing acquisition and disposition of real property where the discussion in an open meeting would be adverse effect on the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding strategic acquisitions and dispositions at 1220 High Street, 240 Beasley Drive, 1609 High Street, and 1021 through 1107 High Street, and pursuant to Code Section 2.23711A.6 for the purposes of discussing investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affecting specifically the funding request from Bloom Market.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
And Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
The item is adopted by a vote of 7-0. We are now in a closed meeting.
I hereby move that each commissioner certify to the best of his or her knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
And Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
Sure, the item is adopted by a vote of 7-0. We're now in an open meeting. We have items submitted by board members.
Well, I was bringing this up at the last meeting. I don't know if I have the same zeal with it at this meeting. But I did go to I know that we gave a substantial amount of money to Black Brand. So I decided to go to their conference just to see if it was really worth our investment. And I will say, I think it was worth the investment, number one. I think that it probably did not produce the larger, because it wasn't, I don't know what the attendance, I don't know if she told you what the attendance was, but it was a lot of space. So I don't think the hotel rooms were taken as she probably thought. But I think the quality of the speakers and the workshops were excellent. They did have a portion of, they did not provide meals. So the people that were attending had to go into the, to our areas, to our restaurants to eat and so forth. So I think there probably was some money exchange there. But I will tell you, and they said that because we were a sponsor, they would give us a video of this. Did you get that yet, Brian?
I have not seen a video, and Autumn is not here at the moment to speak to it. We may have received that, but certainly we can follow up to get that and share that with the group as well.
Okay, and some of the workshops I attended was one like building your brand, funding your creative vision, knowing your company's worth. And I thought that was an excellent one. I think that that's something maybe we want to incorporate with our businesses. It's just amazing that when businesses, and I used to have a business and I didn't know either. So I do understand that when you don't know the value of business, then how do you get investors? And I thought they did a really good job. They used almost like a Shark Tank model of being able to sell your business and knowing what it's worth and that type of thing. Thought that was pretty interesting. Their keynote speakers, and you all may know more so than I was John Hope Bryant. Do you all know who that?
I did.
Right. He was a powerhouse speaker. Pretty much, he said that he pretty much came because he wanted to provide this information to small businesses, but that we couldn't afford it to pay him to be there. And the caliber of speaker that he was, I can see that. I mean, I think I forgot how many millions of dollars, billions of dollars. See what you know anything more about him? But
He works with, many banks where you go in. He has a setup called Hope Banking or something where you come in and they tell you about banking, savings, etc. He works with Truist, and he's probably about 80% of the Truist banks throughout the country. Very wealthy guy. In fact, he gave out of his own personal money about $600,000 that night, just for her the moment. He was so impressed, you know.
right, he's one of the largest holders of real estate in the country. Mhm. And so I thought he was an excellent speaker. And then Natalie Cofield, who was the president and chief executive officer of AEO. And she was also named as one of the most powerful women in business and in the Entrepreneur magazine. And she was also a presidential appointee with the U.S. Small Business Administration. So I don't know if you know her from that. But she gave out some really good clues as to how the forecast of the business, she sees it as the forecast of the business community under the Trump administration. So I thought it was just really good. It was really good. I hate more people didn't come, but I think it was well worth our investment.
Well, thank you for that.
We're really getting a very nice reputation for small businesses to come here and thrive and succeed. And I think that's an area that we could really focus in on next year and really spread that around in the 757 area. This is the place to come. We have the retail space, with the marketing.
The word is out. We just say that we have businesses, business owners, Chesapeake, even the peninsula, coming to Portsmouth, launch their business here because of the resources and the ecosystem we have. We are getting ready to launch a new targeted media campaign specifically for small businesses. We're working on that. You'll see that very soon. We're getting a reputation. It's a good reputation. So we'll continue in 2025 to promote that, push that. It's a small business is a targeted industry sector. So most localities is focus with Portsmouth.
Just to dovetail on what you just said, it's been amazing to me that I apologize for going on a tangent, but you're right. But the toughest people to convince, unfortunately, are longtime Portsmouth residents, because they still have that baggage.
Mindset.
Yeah. So I've been walking around encouraging people, just, go out and shop, to walk downtown. You guys are doing a great job. I'm always amazed at how many people that live in Portsmouth actually, and granted, they don't know what you're doing. And I don't know how you bridge that information gap. So keep doing what you're doing.
You fight the good fight.
Well, before we close, I just want to say this is my last meeting. I'm choosing not to do another term, but I have enjoyed working with all of you. I think it's a great board, and I look forward to seeing what everything's done. What we've talked about being implemented, yes. And I think the staff here is just phenomenal. I just think you all do such a great job. I'm so impressed by all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the cake and the.
I know.
It was very nice. I'm happy to share with after the meeting.
Barbara, thank you for your service. And
Thank you.
You've been crucial to a number of major initiatives during your time with the EDA, like the casino, the innovation district, and a number of projects.
Well, thank you.
You have always been there when needed to support, and the impact is big
Thank you.
and long lasting. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for your service, and we're going to miss having you, but we know you're not far.
Yeah, I'm not far.
You have a motion? Bloom?
I make a motion to add the Bloom Market contribution to the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Barber and the second was Mr. Brown.
Ms. Summers.
Is there any discussion on that? You had a hearing none. Mr. Barber, Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Sandra Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
and Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Hereby vote of 7-0, the item is added to the agenda.
I make a motion that we, approve the request from, Bloom Market. I guess it should be the partnership, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the partnership for $66,500 in support of the operation of Bloom Market.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none. Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Sandra Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
and Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
The item is approved by a vote of 7-0. Any other items submitted by the board? We do have one report back for you, which is really not a report back, but a thank you. And that is for your sponsorship of the small business appreciation reception that we held last Friday at Rivers Casino. The EDA was a sponsor of that event, as you've done for many years, and appreciate that. We had a really great turnout. I saw many of you there that were able to join us. Thank you for attending. I heard nothing but good things from the business community. They always enjoy that event and the opportunity to come together to celebrate all the accomplishments of the past year. As I shared at the event, we had a really good 2024, over $144 million in new capital investments in the city, over 430 new jobs that have been created as a result of a number of the things that those in the business community have done over the last year, but also things that the EDA has implemented. So congratulations on a really successful 2024. I'm very optimistic about the coming year. We have a lot of big things on the horizon. I'm hopeful that, we'll have an even better year, 2025. So happy holidays, everybody. Looking forward to what comes ahead in the new year.
That concludes our meeting. Have a good holiday.
Very good.